Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest podcast that is going to review our match from earlier today versus Burnley at Anfield. We are going to start by giving our thoughts on the game before giving our man of the match and player ratings, before looking ahead to our big Champions League game versus Bayern on Wednesday evening. We want all of your views, so please get in touch. You can obviously leave feedback on YouTube, obviously below, or you can leave feedback on any sort of social media that you may be viewing or listening to this podcast on. Please get in touch. I'm Terence.
And I'm Adam from the Liverpool FC fans group.
And together we are KopThis.
So who do you think was man of the match today then?
So man of the match, for me, to be honest, I would say would be Adam Lallana. I don't think a lot of people would have been saying that before the game kicked off. No. Certainly on reading the starting lineup, obviously when it went out about an hour before kickoff, of course, as it always does, there was plenty of shall I say humorous reactions on Twitter. I don't know whether they were maybe sarcastic or just humorous or just nasty. I don't really know how you want to take up, but I'll just give an example of a few of the reactions to our starting lineup and essentially to Lallana starting. I took down ones such as Klopp's cost us the league. So I'm interested to see whether any listeners agree or agreed with that sort of logic prior to the game. You can't pick someone for being good in training, was somebody else's view. That's the first time I've ever sort of seen that or heard anybody say that. It was quite it made me chuckle, to be honest. Apparently we train too much, and Keita will leave in the summer, obviously because Lallana's been picked ahead of him. So they were just a few of the reactions that I saw, obviously to Lallana starting. Which obviously in hindsight looked like the joke that clearly they were. But yeah, I mean, Adam Lallana, he came in, obviously was brought into the side by Jurgen Klopp. Anybody that sort of listened to our podcast before will know that I've been quite vocal about the fact that I feel Jurgen Klopp has a like, for Adam Lallana, that he is a player that he generally favours. Obviously, prior to his injuries, Lallana was probably one of the standout players for Klopp, and Klopp was quite vocal on that. He's not really had a chance to sort of shine for us. But it's interesting that all of a sudden, obviously, he's been brought back into the starting lineup by Jurgen Klopp. And he obviously said that he'd been exceptional in training, which, based on that performance, obviously, I'm inclined to agree with that assessment. And he had a great game. I think some of the attributes that Lallana has that Klopp clearly really loves is that terrier-like pressing that was evident, throughout his 77 minutes on the pitch. I felt like he knitted that midfield together well. Very, very good link-up play, of course, with the front players, and obviously as well played a crucial role in our first two goals. Lallana for me, man of the match. What about you?
Yeah, I'd tend to agree with that, especially from what I've heard from the Liverpool camp side of it, because I have a lot of people who go to the matches, and because I have to work generally during the weekends and things like that. I don't always get to go or watch the games. This was one of those circumstances where I couldn't go, but I heard nothing but positivity and how we responded. Into regards to the Burnley goal, it was obviously a foul on Alisson, but I think it was wrong from the setup. But from what I heard, Lallana was pivotal, and I think everyone before the game, and especially during our podcast, as we pointed out last week, that a lot of people were negative towards Henderson. They got what they wished for, and I think they actually proved a point, maybe, because I do think that Wijnaldum, Henderson, and Fabinho can come as a bit defensive, but can also hold stability. So I do get why Klopp plays that, but I also don't always like that midfield three. But Lallana was definitely man of the match as far as I'm concerned.
Jordan Henderson, I think, like you said, kind of the naysayers, the critics, I think definitely got the wish that they had hoped for in seeing Henderson on the bench this afternoon. I do think possibly one of the key reasons why he may have been benched was with one eye on the Bayern game.
And how controversial if that is true though, because if that is arresting, like him resting Jordan, I just think why, if he is resting him, we need them for the Premier League. And I've heard that like a number of people saying this year that we should focus on the one thing, and a lot of people have said, did Klopp mean to go out the Carabao? Did he mean to go out the FA Cup? And you know what, he probably did, because they are a lot of games, and there's a lot of people where you can switch off, you can rotate. But if that is true, that he's rested Jordan Henderson for the Champions League, it's very controversial to say the least, because into regards to, and I know it's a short turnaround, but if that is, if Jordan Henderson's one of your main players and you're going for a title, surely he's got to play. But it worked out, and Lallana is definitely one player I'd love to see come back. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing him again on Wednesday.
Nor would I. Absolutely not. To be honest, and I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon because obviously he's given a very good performance this afternoon. Adam Lallana is a player that actually I have genuinely always liked. I really liked him while he was at Southampton. Obviously, before we bought him, of course.
Where else would we buy them from?
Oh yeah, exactly. Our feeder club. They're our feeder club, aren't they? Obviously, Southampton. No more, obviously, not anymore really, but they have been very useful. Selling players to us. Some notable good players, of course. Van Dijk being maybe the standout.
No, but the standout was Ricky Lambert. Come on.
Oh yeah, God, can't forget Ricky Lambert. Oh wow, player and a half him.
I think that's maybe then Lambert.
Yeah. So I was thinking, obviously we've sort of talked a little bit now, obviously, about sort of man of the match. What about sort of thoughts maybe on the overall game this afternoon? Obviously, you've touched on Alisson and Burnley's goal. Obviously, the first goal, which came after 6 minutes on the clock. It was corner that sort of Matip had needlessly given away. But the wind, obviously, good old weather. To talk about the weather, shouldn't really be doing that as such. But no, the wind clearly sort of produced movement on the ball. But in the build-up, obviously, with the corner being taken, there were several Burnley players surrounding Alisson. One, I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head, but he had his shoulder right on Alisson, totally impeding him. And in any league, in any country around the world, that would be a foul. It's just a simple fact, I think, that our referees and the the officiating standards have been way below average this season. The standards of officiating are not good enough, and VAR cannot come soon enough because, frankly, officials are not up to it. They're not up to it at all, and I would be very, very keen on getting people's views. So please give all your views just on general standards of officiating. I don't know whether there's sort of any older listeners, perhaps, that have sort of seen sort of officials in the past, sort of going back 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Have officiating standards got better? Have they got worse? What are the problems and the difficulties, perhaps, that officials are clearly facing? But for me, it's not good enough. Not good enough at all. And that goal should never have been given. And obviously, it could have totally affected the game. Thankfully, it didn't, and obviously we've won the game. And firstly, I mean that's fantastic. We've bounced back. We've got back to winning ways, which was so important. We've kept the pressure on City. We're one point obviously behind them. Of course, when we play Fulham next weekend, we have the chance, of course, to go into the international break 2 points clear, provided we get the win away at Fulham. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I say, on that blunder, that we could have been faced with a very, very different game.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? We've got 8 cup finals coming up now, where it's so pivotal that we get 3 points. And I'm glad you talked about Matip's header, because last week I gave him such a pivotal standpoint, where I said, he runs from centre back to CDM to then Cam. He does so much of that, and then just today, he headed that ball out for no apparent reason. He could have just cleared it. And we have, as we have discussed, the 5 or several players on Alisson, all giving them a little bit of a jab. And I think it was Tarkowski you were trying to get his name. He was the one that was causing the most trouble for Alisson, I think. And you know what? He nearly did get it and proved them all wrong. I'm so sad that he got booked after. I know Brazilians can be a little bit. The wording isn't quite the nicest on occasion.
No.
But it's one of them where you've just got to assess the situation. But I mean, I'm glad he tried to stand up. But then he's in my fantasy Premier League team, so he got me 0 points. So thanks, Alisson. But
it was like a sick joke, really, weren't it? Obviously, he gets thrown to the ground, obviously for the goal. He complains, obviously, to the referee and gets shown a yellow card for his trouble. Which I think sometimes it can almost, I mean, in the past, when I've seen like Chelsea players, for example, we'll name Chelsea as a classic example, where they surround the referee screaming for yellow cards, for example, or screaming that they've done, that they've not committed a foul, and then obviously it ends up in yellow cards being dished out for such a constant sort of swarming around the referee and complaining bitterly. Alisson was obviously complaining quite rightly, having been virtually assaulted to the ground, and then the goal being awarded, which obviously at that time obviously took away the clean sheet. Obviously, I mean, obviously we conceded again, so in that sense, obviously it kind of didn't matter. But it sort of cost him a clean sheet after 6 minutes. A goal that should not have been given. He's complained, and then obviously been basically told, "Shut your mouth. There's a yellow card."
Yeah. Right. Should we move on to possibly player ratings then?
Go on then. Oh no. Well. General, have you got any thoughts sort of on the overall game, on the performance?
Do you know what? I generally do not care how well we play, as long as there's a 3 points next to our name. And I literally don't care how we play, whether it's the worst performance in the world or whether it's the best performance in the world. To be honest, I'm getting like one of those fans that just wants something to happen.
Likewise.
For the remainder that I've been a Liverpool fan, and I was born into a Liverpool family, and it wasn't like forced upon me. It wasn't anything. No. It was my own decision. If you looked around, my room now, you'd see about maybe at least 10 Liverpool posters and about 3 of
Like,
Steve Gerrard.
yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things that you just feel like it's right. And do you know what? We haven't had the luck or and to be honest, I've had some of the best moments in my life. 2005, which was where I really became, indulged in Liverpool. Of course, that's one to sway, and then the next couple of seasons after was struggling, and then some of
yeah,
the worst. I mean, we discussed last time. 2013-14 was by far one of the hardest years of my life. Just one GCSEs and two Liverpool cut slipping the league away. So I mean that made me really think about things. But it's it's like a desperation. Like we really want it, but
we do.
it's whether that it either comes this year, but we always say it can come next year, and then we say it again. Oh yeah, it can
Yeah,
come next year. I think that we have to do something this year, otherwise,
I firmly believe that we will. I
yeah, and
firmly believe that we will. I firmly believe that we will be champions come May.
yeah,
I really do. I mean, there's eight, like you said, there's eight cup finals essentially left. We've got 4 at Anfield, 4 obviously away. I look at those fixtures. I mean, personally, I mean, I would take 8-1-0 wins right now. I don't care how the wins come. I would take any form, any manner of victory. I would take 4-3. I would take sort of, real nerve-wracking kind of finished games. Obviously, I'd rather not have the nerve-wracking games, but we never do things the easy way. So I would take any kind of win at all in these remaining 8 games. And I believe that if we did that, that we would be champions. But obviously, I feel like we can't drop any more points, really. I think there's a possibility we could maybe drop 2 more in the hope that City lose a game.
yeah.
But
Do you know what though? I think the games against Tottenham, as I said last time, if anyone loses against Tottenham, the title the other way.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, whoever loses against Tottenham, if anyone does, the title going the other way.
I agree.
Down that for a fact, and that is going to be one of the most crucial games of the season. Not to the point because we've got Chelsea coming up, we've got coming up, and then the rest of the games. And to be honest, I read up, and there's quite a lot of big games still we've got to play. But I mean, Chelsea out of form, Tottenham out of form. I just really hope that United got beat today. Thank God.
God.
Um,
God.
do you know what? United are going to come back for blood, and I'm so glad we played them earlier. I'm so glad that we played them early and got I know it's bad, but a 0-0. Do you know what? I don't care. A 0-0 against United, especially with what manager they've got and how he's doing what he's doing. We did quite well, and I know that it was a 0-0 where at the time we were like we should have won it. Yeah, we should have won it, but now I'm looking back, it's actually all right. Because
I think it's all right.
I think because United have lost a game now, and they'll be chasing for top 4 like a manic dog. And they face City. That is a big game.
Yeah. They can't afford to just lose to City, whether or not they, obviously they hate us in the same way that we hate them, but they really can ill afford to just throw the game to City and accept getting beaten to save, Liverpool winning the title. In order,
There's a lot of controversy now, isn't there? Where you're just like, do we because Everton hate us, United hate us,
the world hates us.
Dislike us. I don't think City hate us yet, but I think they dislike us.
They think they've got a rivalry with us. They've got no rivalry with us. That's part of the problem. A lot of the City fans, and same with Chelsea, they feel like they've got a rivalry with us, but they haven't. Spurs, you could include in that. They feel like there's a rivalry with us, but they're not our rivals. Not really. I mean, well, in theory, you could turn around and say all 19 other Premier League sides are our rivals, but they're really not. We have obviously a select few. Your likes of Man United, your likes of Everton, maybe even Arsenal. But Spurs are an irrelevance. Chelsea are really an irrelevance. Obviously formed in 2003, and City obviously formed in the last few years. They're also an irrelevance. But they've got no rivalry with us. It might be a bit of a rivalry this season. But the fact that we're so close to them when really they should probably be out of sight with the squad that they've got, it's maybe created that bit of a rivalry. But for me, there's no rivalry like between us and City. City were just an irrelevant club a few years ago. Money talks, and obviously money has talked for City. And there's no doubt in sort of what Guardiola's done with that squad and with obviously the money that he's got. But for me, there's not a rivalry with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And, you hear so many things over the season, and he's had to. I mean, there's a load of comments that, Klopp might go, is apparently a top transfer target for Real Madrid, and Guardiola apparently has already signed a 4-year deal to Juventus. There's a lot of these deals where you're just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why Guardiola leave City right now? I have no idea. Maybe he might go to Juventus eventually, because
Yeah,
I don't think he's been to the Italian league yet.
Nope, I don't think he has.
And that would be all 5, if I'm not mistaken. He's been to Germany, he's been to La Liga, he's been to England.
Yeah.
That would be quite a pivotal move for him, but I think he's in the best league in the world.
He is.
I don't think he should leave City because I think they are on verge of becoming one of the world's best. I don't
know. If I were him, I'd go. Please go. Go away.
Yeah, please go, please.
Yeah, you go. Get City Mark Hughes. He'll do a fantastic job.
David Moyes. Get
a bit of Alan Pardew or a bit of Fat Sam. That's what City need.
No, David Moyes. Yeah, David Moyes in.
Get David Moyes in. Yeah, you never know. They could bring up Alex Ferguson. They might get him for a bit of Fergie time.
God.
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if Vincent Company takes over at some point.
God.
I really wouldn't. He's been there for so long. I mean, anyway, I think we're getting too off track here.
We are.
So first of all, I'm gonna go for Alisson. I know we got a yellow card. I know some people would argue maybe he could have done better. I mean, the defense was partially atrocious, if I'm going to be honest, at some parts, and I think we'll both get on to one particular right back in a moment. But the goalkeeper, I think, is 7.5, maybe 7.
Yeah, I would really agree with that. I would have given Alisson a 7. Still had very, very good distribution generally. Certainly better than his opposite number, Heaton, of course. That terrific goal kick that basically set Salah on his way was fantastic. So thank you for that, Heaton. Burnley, obviously we love you. You're a fantastic, fantastic opposition. Especially when we beat you, we love it. So thank you for that. But no, Alisson in general, his distribution was very, very good. Was booked for complaining. So the moral of the story is don't complain. And obviously it's the same for managers. Of course, they complain in post-match press conferences, etc., and they end up getting fined. It's sort of similar on the pitch. Alisson
Pochettino.
And Pochettino, of course, yes. Oh, yes. Hello, Pochettino. He knows.
He's going to be banned for our game, which I think is quite crucial.
Oh, that's fantastic. He can enjoy the view from the stands like the rest of the spectators. I'm sure he'll enjoy it when he sees his side unravel, hopefully, at Anfield. But yeah, no, that's good. But no, in general, Alisson, of course, complained after being fouled. Obviously, the goal was given.
Quite rightly as well, but it's one of them where you're just gonna take it and move on. But you argue to say, one, how did the linesman or any officials not see that? There's fourth officials for a reason, but
they're not fit. They're not fit to be officiating in this league. I mean, when you've got, like you say, 4 officials that cannot spot a blatant foul like that, I'm sorry, it's like we've gone back to basics. That there needs to be some sort of real training for these referees and these officials that, frankly, are not up to standards. It's like they're either well past their sell-by date or they're not fit enough. We need, I think, some sort of greater fitness tests for these officials. I mean, you look at some of them without actually naming names on referees. They're obviously much larger, really, than they should be. They're arguably possibly not fit enough to keep up with the pace of the game, particularly the likes of sides like Liverpool, like us, and like City, who play at a very quick and high tempo pace in general. And they just, I mean, for the foul on Alisson to not even be seen, he wasn't even looked at. The referee wasn't even looking at it. Who was it? It was Mariner, wasn't it?
I believe so.
It was Mariner. I'm sure it was Andre Mariner. Obviously, if I'm wrong, someone please correct me. But whoever it was, I'm going to be brutally honest. I just called him the bastard in black. I did. I as soon as they scored, I said, for God's sake, I was like the bastard in black, sitting there screaming when obviously he allowed the goal. No, not good enough. But no, Alisson otherwise very, very solid. Basically getting back on topic. Very, very solid otherwise. Couldn't really do a lot about the second goal. It was shambolic defending. So, yeah, otherwise solid. Solid, if unspectacular. So a 7 for Alisson.
Yeah. Do we jump on the bandwagon for the right back, or do we go left to right?
Let's about Trent.
Get ready for about half an hour, and we'll just talk about Trent for half an hour, because that is one of the performances, like the game against United, that we really didn't need Trent to have, and from the service that he provided against Watford, the questions that he'll be. I know he's still young, but against Everton, he wasn't even tested. Like, they weren't even going towards them; they were going towards Robbo, as we discussed when I jumped on the my first podcast with you. It was It was just like, they were going for someone like who was experienced, who was fast, and they weren't even going towards Alexander-Arnold.
No.
He gets confidence, and then this happens, and for me, 5.5, maybe 6 at very max, to be honest, for Alexander-Arnold today.
Okay. I mean, I think we're quite similar in sort of our ratings. I would give a Trent a 5 for his performance today against Burnley. Too often caught out of possession. I'll be brutally honest, a calamity from start to finish. Was really, really, really poor, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, Trent is a very, very good player. He's a player I rate highly. He's a player I will talk generally very, very positively about. He is, for me, the future England right back and has, for me, the potential to be truly world class. Obviously in his position, there's
sad to
no
see
doubt about that.
future Liverpool right back there, but you know,
Pardon?
I think he's possibly future Liverpool. Well, I know he's already made it right back, but he's definitely going to be the future right back for me as well for Liverpool.
I would agree.
And I think even if how long he stays at Liverpool, because I mean he got quoted the other day that he wants to basically finish his career at Liverpool, as there's a number of youth prodigies that are out there, like the likes of Ryan Brewster, who's just come
Yeah.
back from injury, which I cannot wait to see him eventually play.
Normally.
And I think Trent could even become captain, but he needs to. I mean, he is only what 20. I think he's actually younger than me, just by a few months.
Yeah.
But
He's learning all the time. The thing is, he's learning all the time, and I think this game almost today proves that this sort of this game is almost, I would say, almost serves as that benchmark, or that sort of that performance to look back on and to learn from. Because the performance was, as you said, very similar to his performance against United. That it was
where he's targeted too much, and he just didn't. He just seemed out of place at that United game, and again because Rashford was targeting him when but today, when it's Westwood and Woods, was it?
Woods, Westwood and Woods.
Yeah. I don't count them as very fast, very like massive. Like Rashford, he comes at you at speed. You've got to really think of how to run against him. Westwood and Woods, they're very direct and attacking, but then I don't think they're too fast. I think Alexander-Arnold would beat them in a 100-meter race, but I just didn't. I mean, the wingers had him on toast, which is fair enough. But come inside but just it's frustrating.
The one lad really, the one lad that really caused him a lot of problems today was McNeil. He gave him a torrid time, really, really torrid time, and every time that McNeil sort of came up against Trent in a one-on-one, he got the better of Trent on virtually every occasion that I can certainly remember. And I think this is just where he needs to learn. I'm very much with you and side with you. Where you say that obviously he could be a future Liverpool captain. I think it's fantastic. Obviously, there's a real Scouser loyalty that he wants to obviously hopefully see out his career at Liverpool, very much obviously along the line, along the same sort of lines as obviously Stevie G and Jamie Carragher, of course, for example. And he could do very, very, very well for us, and could certainly be a future club captain. But it's really just a big learning curve, and I think that certainly, I mean, he has more very good performances than very bad ones, but the problem obviously at the moment is that he still has the occasional performance that is obviously as bad as it was today, and that performance today is a bit of concern, really.
Yeah, completely agree with that. But we also have to talk about the defence in general. It's not just Alexander-Arnold to blame.
No.
And another one to blame is, well, I think did he play left centre back or did he play right centre back? But I'm going to talk about him anyway. Matip.
Right centre back. He played next to Trent. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a pivotal position, because in my thinking, Van Dijk should really play right centre back, because he's more of a leader and can keep Trent, safe. But maybe Van Dijk likes left centre back, because I think his favourite foot is right, and it's a bit awkward to play right centre back if your favourite foot is right. You can't use your left much. But anyway, Matip, I'm struggling to think of a rating, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he played okay. but 6 maybe average.
Yeah, I would say 5 again. For Matip, unfortunately, I put him very much in the same boat as Trent. I think that Matip was a little all over the place at times, pulled out of position numerous times against Burnley, unfortunately. There was a couple of careless corners that he gave away, most notably, of course, the first one that led to Burnley's goal. That shouldn't have been given, of course, but we've said enough on that. But no, in general, he did not look as solid as he has done recently. Praised him very, very highly against Everton. Obviously, we and obviously, so we've sort of covered that. He has done a tremendous job since coming in general. Obviously, during our injury crisis, still wouldn't want to see him replaced with Lovren. Of course, definitely not. Keep him away from the team. I was disgusted to see him on the bench. I don't even want him as far as the bench.
I think it's
very much,
inevitable that Lovren's going to come back at some point. But
Well, I would like Mr. Lovren to find his way out of the egocentric door in the summer and to go to anybody that would take him, frankly. But anyway, that's another podcast. But Matthew, no, he's
what are we
very,
calling
very
it? The
capable.
Lovren podcast, are we?
Yes, I think we need an entire podcast dedicated to Lovren, which I'm sure we will bring you at a later date. But be warned, it will be highly explicit and it will probably go on for a very long time. So yeah, but Matip. Obviously, the good news is, of course, Joe Gomez is on his way back. He's very, very close to coming back. In fact, I read
After
something
the
the other day
international
that
break,
suggested
as
to be back
far as
by
I've
the end
heard.
of March. Pardon?
As far as I've heard, it's after the
Yeah, yeah. Joe Gomez. Is someone to look forward to coming back.
Yeah, definitely. But as I said when we were on the Everton podcast, I think now that Matip's done well, I think Gomez will want to play like even harder, even better than he did beforehand, and I
Like,
cannot wait to see that tenacity back for Joe Gomez because I
normally,
think he wants to be, Liverpool
he
through
does.
and through as well. And to
He
say
does.
that we signed him for what, 1 million, 2 million?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's
deal.
some, I think under 1 mil actually, wasn't it? Like
Yeah,
it was like 600,000, maybe 300,000. But anyway,
it was next to no. I know
yeah,
that for him. I know it was next to no. It was very, very low fee for Gomez.
yeah. Even though it was questioned at the time, but yeah, amazing. Like to see how he's grown and just
He's
how
really
he is now.
leaps and bounds.
There was still some questions about him even before he went out in injury. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get that at the back, but I think he's gonna come back fighting just like
Absolutely.
Chamberlain. But we know that he's had a bit of a strain. It is a precaution, as far
Yeah.
as I've been told from our sources.
Yeah.
But it is just a precaution for now. It's not gonna
It
set
is.
him back.
Yeah.
It's he's still on the mend, so
It,
he is making his way back slowly but surely. 41 minutes is better than no minutes, I think.
it certainly is. It certainly is. And I think we'll be looking at sort of in the next couple of games, Alex sort of finding his way back on the bench.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So do we talk about Van Dijk now? Maybe.
Van Dijk. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Go for it. Go for it. You lead the way.
Do you know what? This is the first game where I've kind of gone. Is it a really good performance? No. what did the captain do? And this is the first time where I've gone, what did the captain do? Virgil is always very, very, like, voicing of his, like, he'll shout at anyone. I think he did do some of that today, but there was no, I didn't really hear anything from Virgil, to be honest.
No. It was
But
virtuoso performance.
especially as captain, you know.
Yeah.
You're meant to, you always hear that, Virgil's on the move. You hear him creeping up behind you.
Yeah.
But maybe a 6.5, and I know that's very harsh, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we differ, but maybe very slightly. I mean, I'd be maybe quite surprising here. I would still give Virgil like a 7. Myself. I mean, 6.5 is not really sort of, not very far off. I think 6.5 is fair. I would give him a 7. It was okay. I think, like you say, I mean, I wouldn't say it was obviously some magnificent performance from sort of what we know to come to expect from Virgil. I think defensively, collectively, it was a defensively shambolic effort for the second Burnley goal. So that was I include Virgil in that. Collectively, it was a bad defensive effort for that second
ricochets,
goal.
really.
But I would say 7.
Yeah.
I think it was the best of our. Well, I would say that Virgil, perhaps alongside maybe Robbo, was probably our best defender today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm part of that. Robbo, I'd say again. I'd probably go for, just because we did concede two goals, and to be honest, the back line is probably going to be the either partial quickest or partial just generic, because they didn't play well the back line today. 6.5 I'm going to say for Robbo again. I just, maybe that's a bit bang average, but again, I thought it was a bang average performance from the defence today. Part shambolic, part, just wasn't right.
I'll match you on that, really, on the 6.5 for Robbo, sort of give or take, sort of, matching sort of Van Dijk for performance. Obviously, I gave Van Dijk 7. I'll stick with sort of a 6.5, really, for Robbo. I think all the defence had a bit of an off day. However, obviously, in part, perhaps the wind did play its part. Whether or not the weather actually did play any part, sort of on the performance.
Klopp now, Terence?
I am. I'm turning into Klopp. I must be blaming the weather and all that. But no, genuinely. I mean, it was grim weather. I mean, it was sort of sunny one moment, hail in the next. Rain. It was crazy.
I was driving in it. It was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it was horrendous. But I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the fact that still collectively, defensively, not our best. Possibly not our worst defensive performance. I mean, Palace, for example, was a lot worse. But not our best, not our worst. We won the game, which is obviously the most important thing. But yeah, certainly
goal difference in City. That's another big factor as well. I mean,
yeah,
they won 3-1. We won 4-2. 2-goal difference. Perfect.
It would have been good to have, got a clean sheet really and to have won 4-0.
Oh,
and obviously
I mean that's the dream. But not everything happens. But as I said before, I literally don't care how we play. I don't care if we concede 4, as long as we score 5. I really do not care. Really do not care. I would prefer to get a clean sheet, but it's one of those things. We need the 3 points more than the goal difference. But if the goal difference comes with it, perfect.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
So
moving on to the midfield,
I would personally give Lana probably a 8, maybe 8.5.
Yeah. I mean, that's very, very similar again. To me, I would actually give Adam Lallana a 9. I genuinely felt he had that good a performance. Like I described him earlier in the podcast, an absolute terrier. I mean, I think we've already spoke quite a lot, obviously, about our actual man of the match. Obviously, who in this case, obviously, is Adam Lallana. Like I say, an absolute terrier, hustling and hounding on the pitch, doing everything really that I think Klopp likes in a player and in a team. I've specified, obviously, numerous times that he's very much a player that Klopp clearly likes. He's just had him unavailable for frequent periods of time due to injury. Lots and lots of fans very, very critical when they see Lallana on the team sheet or, of course, come on as a substitute. There was obviously a lot of criticism for his involvement against Everton, but very much justified his selection today. Very, very good performance. Would it be nice to see him against Bayern? Yes. Would it be nice to see him start against Fulham? Personally, for me, yes. On the back of that performance, I don't see why his inclusion in obviously upcoming matches is not warranted. So yes, for me, an absolute positive, very much like a new signing almost. Brilliant performance. It was only Burnley, so I'm not getting carried away. With all due respect to Burnley, but it was a very good performance and a much needed creative performance in the midfield that we've clearly or possibly have been missing. Obviously in previous games, in some of our previous draws. So yeah, a 9. Absolutely well played, Adam Lallana. Absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, and I knew he played well. I just didn't know what rating to give him, and I knew it wasn't perhaps the best performance, but I knew that he was one of the best performances on that pitch today, which is part why man of the match goes to him. So definitely a good performance today from him. But I'd like to just give a little comment here, obviously to us saying that Lallana should be involved from now on. Questions over Milner's fitness definitely given, as he was completely missed out. Questions there whether he is injured or whether the future is looming over him, because yes, he still has not signed a contract, which I'm very confused about. As
I am.
Sturridge or Moreno, as far as I'm concerned, Moreno can get in my car and I will drive him to the nearest club that I will take him.
I was going to say, Moreno, for God's sake, please don't put a contract in front of him. Jesus, take him to a cliff and push him off. That's what I'd say. I mean, he's the nicest person. I'm sure he's the nicest person. So pushing him off is probably a bit extreme. But my thoughts towards Alberto Moreno are not good. He's not a Premier League player. He's not a Championship player. I think that I think he'd make his money well enough in League One. But to say that he's not a Championship player, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not, sort of being just like intentionally nasty. He has very little talent, footballing talent. Nor do I. Don't get me wrong. Nor do I. So I'm not saying, obviously, that I could do a hell of a lot better. But I am going to say I couldn't do a hell of a lot worse. Because he's just, get rid.
Yeah. To be fair, I did like my comment from my dad, who made a similar comment, just to say that are Marcus Alonso and Alberto Moreno the same player? I'd go on to say no, but you can't help but see that Alonso and Moreno have a similar tenacity and have that same thought of going forward. But at least Alonso could come back and defend, where Moreno would give. Anytime Moreno was in our own box and was against the player, you thought, oh my God, he is going to give away that penalty. There's so many times where you just so frustrated with Moreno, thinking, oh, what's he going to do now? And And do you know what? I've heard that he doesn't even want to sign a contract. So
I hope he doesn't.
good riddance is what I have
Good
to say.
riddance. I don't want you to sign a contract, Alberto. Please, 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 just get yourself on the quickest ferry or the quickest taxi or helicopter or whatever you want to get yourself on plane. Get yourself out and go away. We don't want you. It's
Yeah.
it's that simple. It's just not good enough. I'm
You know what?
afraid.
Go to Cardiff City. They need the players. Just go there.
Oh, he'd fit in fantastic at Cardiff. Oh yeah. I'd love to loan him to Cardiff and just change the rules and allow Cardiff to play our loaned player against us. We're guaranteed goals if we put him, if we get him in a side against us.
Why are you talking about keeping him? On loan, it would be considered giving him a contract.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I shouldn't even be talking like that. I must be having a blonde moment. Just get him out for nothing. Michael Edwards, I was going to say you don't need to sell him. Although it would be brilliant if he, got some great fee. Please, you don't need to sell him. Just get rid. I don't really care. Just get rid of him for nothing.
Apparently, Barcelona wants him. Apparently, yeah,
they've seen something that I haven't. Let them have it.
Well, the big question is he Jordi Alba's replacement? Do you know what? I'm just gonna say yes. Just take him off.
Yes. Take him. You can have him for nothing. Free of charge. We'll even pay you to take him.
We'll pay you 12 million to take Alberto Moreno back.
Well, I would. I'll tell you, I would if it means getting him off our books.
Not 12.
Yeah.
5 million maybe,
yeah.
But no, I think Alberto Moreno's had his time, and I just don't want him at Liverpool.
He's had his time. He's been living on borrowed time since the day he arrived.
Yeah, he's one of them people, isn't he? You just don't know if it's going to work, and I just don't think it hasn't. So
it just doesn't work.
No.
He doesn't work.
And you know
lazy.
I love to see some of these prospects kids come in. There's this left back called Lewis, who I've heard is absolutely amazing. Could be the next Robbo. Bring him in.
Yeah.
He's that good. Bring him in and start playing him in the games that we, rotate.
Yeah.
So, I just think that is a big part to our future. You've got to play the prospect players. Look at Trent. Like 2 years ago, did you even know who Trent Alexander-Arnold was? I certainly didn't.
No. But the thing is, this is what Klopp is obviously very good at doing as well. And I think he is very good at giving players a chance and sort of nurturing them. You know what I mean? Obviously, in our setup, he clearly takes note of all players, obviously, in training. I mean, look at Lallana, of course, today, who was brought in and who was cited by Klopp as being exceptional in training. Now, of course, he's a proven player, of course. So, obviously, in one sense, it's a bad example. But, I mean, of course, the same goes for prospects, and for academy players or young players. He takes very, very, clear note of all players. He's been quite vocal about that in the past. Another young prospect, of course, Harry Wilson's had a fantastic season at Derby. Is another real promising looking talent. Some of his
cannot wait for him to come home.
I can't, and he should definitely get game time next season.
Oh yes,
I
cannot wait to see that left foot drive home a free kick against United, and for him to hold those 5 fingers up in the air. Oh, that celebration just meant, it almost made me cry.
Run down to the Stratford end, jump in with the United fans and start going, sticking his hand up 5 times. Yes, please.
That would honestly make my day. Anyway, moving swiftly on to Fabinho.
To Fabinho,
yeah.
Forgotten man, I'm afraid, on this one.
To be honest, I almost said a completely different player because I forgot he even played.
I did.
I'm gonna say 5.5, maybe even 5.
I'll say 5.
And do you know what? I think that's enough to say on Fabinho. So on to the next one.
Yeah, there's very little. To be honest, I would agree with you. There's very little to say about him. Just largely anonymous.
Yeah.
Not,
So,
I mean, wasn't effective. Yeah,
pardon?
wasn't really effective today.
No, and do you know what? It doesn't really matter because we got the 3 points, and that's
And that's the most
what
important.
matters. It doesn't, sometimes it does matter, but you know,
Yeah, but obviously this wasn't one of those examples today. The main thing was obviously we got over the line with 3 points. We could have given them all a 1 rating, and obviously the most important thing was obviously the fact that we've got 3 points, which obviously at this stage of the season is all that really matters. But Fabinho, by his standards, just maybe not his day or not his game. I think because Adam Lallana sort of took the praise, has taken so much of the praise, and was the standout midfield man. It's very, very difficult almost to rate Fabinho, and obviously we're coming on to Wijnaldum, obviously in a second, but very much again, I imagine it's going to be a similar story.
yeah, because I was just about to say, um, what do you think about Wijnaldum? Because there's usually very little I can say bad about Wijnaldum. Again, I can't really say very anything bad about him. Can't
I
say
can't.
anything really good about him. But again, I'd go for a similar 5.5, maybe 6.
Yeah, I would probably go for a 6 again. To be honest, for Wijnaldum, consistent. There was nothing glaringly bad, nothing outstandingly good from Wijnaldum. I'd say it was just sort of a workhorse performance again, just an everyday sort of average day at the office. Solid. There's not really a lot else I can sort of say about him. Nothing really great, like I say, nothing really bad, which in my book gets an average score of about 6.
Talking about average scores, which is quite strange when you think the highest score is 10. Half of that is technically 5, but I mean,
5.
but 6 is usually, you sort of go to
Just,
average, but
yeah.
um,
We'll
on
say
that,
just above average then a 6, just
yeah,
above average.
yeah,
Just.
yeah, just. Um, saying that, just above average Salah. Again, took too many touches. I thank you to Heaton who gave us the ball about 7 million times. And, and one of those, Salah should have put that away again, and he's missed the chance to do Shearer's record now, I think, which
Yeah,
is such a shame. But
the record, of course, was 50 goals in 66 games for Alan Shearer. This was Salah's 66th game today. Obviously, was on 49 goals. And obviously, as you've just said there, failed basically to get that 50th goal.
as you've seen, I think they tried to set him up so many times. I've seen so many highlights, especially where they tried to get it into Salah, and in the end, Mane 92nd minute runs in, runs around the goalkeeper, and he can't pass it to Salah because he's seen that Tarkowski is coming in and
Yeah.
will take it off him. So do you know what? I'm just glad Mane just put it in, but I'm so sad for Salah that he doesn't get to replicate it because he was begging
I
to come his way.
am. What would you rate him?
Oh, well, that's what I was going for. The same as what I did for Wijnaldum's 6.
6. Yeah, I would very much agree with you. Rate Salah a 6. Very much, to be honest, I mean, you've sort of covered a lot of it. I would really describe, to be honest, obviously Salah. I genuinely do. I do feel sorry for him. Obviously, this was his 5th successive game without scoring, his longest dry spell. Um, it was a difficult. I would describe the performance today, perhaps for Salah, as difficult. Was always dangerous. Um, Obviously was always dangerous on that right hand side. Obviously, without the finishing product, without the end product, and a few times I just sort of, I noticed how frustrated he looked. When something hadn't gone quite right, or it, something had gone awry, or these nearly chances. He sort of looked up to the heavens and just looked frustrated. And I kind of have sensed that in the last couple of matches that he looks frustrated. It's clearly sort of getting to him perhaps a little bit, not scoring. And maybe this is obviously overall affected his performance. I mean, obviously, it was dangerous, but obviously at this moment in time, it's sort of the same old story. Obviously, like I say, it was a difficult performance for him. Um, it was sort of average, like I say, a 6. I'd like to see him rediscover his goal scoring form. It's so important to us. Obviously, 8 games of the season left. We really need a Mo Salah that's firing on all cylinders. So I really do hope that he rediscovers some of his form. Starting obviously at Bayern on Wednesday would be a nice way to start. But I think what he needs is our support. Obviously he needs our support. And for people to get behind him still. And I think that there are people now that I said certainly on Twitter that are starting to really lose all faith with him, that really want him taken off. After half an hour, I was saying, "Oh, get Salah off, Salah off," and it was quite a recurring theme, to be honest, in the second half for people being quite quick to say, "Get Salah off." Which that's fine. That would prove one thing. That would take him off and prove. That would say to Salah, "You've not had a very good game," essentially, because obviously he's our talisman, really. So it would say, it would certainly say that, really, wouldn't it? That he's not had a good game, but that's no good for his confidence. And obviously, I think at this moment in time, his confidence is quite short. It's quite shot, and perhaps he does need a bit of a rest. But really, we can't afford to rest him, which is the sad truth of the matter. Is who do you replace him with? It's okay resting him. It's okay sort of taking him, sort of giving him some time off, perhaps, because he's not quite firing on all cylinders. But then look at the replacements. The replacements simply aren't good enough.
I mean, his time off is coming up anyway because he's not selected for internationals. So
Yeah.
just chill out in Liverpool. And
hopefully come back.
And hopefully come back and Klopp can kind of train with him and just let him know that we're all here for him. But that would be a perfect go-to if he scores against Fulham and Bayern. Be great.
Absolutely.
Anyway, swiftly moving on to the other 2 potential man of the matches, and one of my favourite Liverpool players when he scores, Bobby Firmino. Again, a really funny celebration that I didn't quite understand, but just generally funny anyway.
Shooting.
Yeah, just I mean, he comes up with the most random things sometimes, doesn't he?
I think he's got the best celebrations in the Premier League.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of
very unique
Liverpool sources come up with that. So
yeah,
he is good. I mean, the covering up the eye is by far the best celebration that I've ever seen.
it was
For
no
him to
long.
react in his eye, nearly getting chopped out.
Yeah.
But I think
Definitely.
in regards to performance today, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's 100% from Firmino. I think he could still play better.
I agree.
Which is why he wasn't man of the match. But still capitalised on those small chances, which I think you mentioned. And I'd say 7.5, maybe 8. Maybe 8.5.
Yeah, I would basically go along with what you've said. Very much again on the same wavelength there. I would have said an 8 for Bobby. Always there. You know what I mean? He's one of these players that always seems to sort of be in the right place at the right time or react the quickest, which for me is an invaluable asset to have in any side, in any league in the world. I think it's often underrated. I think Bobby as a player is often underrated. Not by us, not by obviously Liverpool fans, but by rival fans, which is fine because he's not their player, he's ours. But you know, like you say, he wasn't 100% today, but it certainly sort of, you know, obviously he's obviously had that little injury, didn't he? That minor injury, was it? No, illness. Yeah, minor illness. And obviously he's come back and he's come back well. And obviously he bagged himself a couple today, and was very good. Was very good on the whole. There was some very good link-up play, to be honest, particularly between Firmino and Mane. But really, you could say there was some good link-up play across all three. Obviously, Salah didn't score, but like I said, he was dangerous. And there
he
was
technically
good link-up.
set up the first one for Firmino, didn't he?
Yes,
first
he did.
Goal.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Even though it did, like, kind of go against Tarkowski, bad defensive from them, but even so, Salah did a lot for that goal, and I think he deserves the credit there.
Certainly, he definitely deserves the credit for that goal.
Yeah,
for the person.
Now we're going on to my fancy Premier League captain, Sadio Mane. I think he's been pivotal at home. He's been pivotal for Liverpool, while Salah's been firing blanks.
Totally agree.
Now I'm going to say something that you may not agree with, but I think Sadio Mane was as good as Lallana. 8.5, maybe 9.
Okay. Well, I mean, for me, he wasn't quite as good as Lallana. I do understand why you've said well, should I say, I understand why you feel that he was, and I think that's absolutely fair enough. And I think that a lot of people will agree with you, absolutely. And again, anybody listening, please give your views on this one. My rating for Mane would be an 8, the same as Firmino. I think that they were both very good. Sadio, obviously, he is in a real rich vein of form at the minute. He is proving invaluable. Obviously, where Salah obviously is not scoring, Mane is coming up with the goods. And obviously, in this case today, Mane and Firmino, of course, both came up with the goods. And they both obviously scored 2 apiece. Mane has scored in his 6th successive match at Anfield. So he's in rich company right now. Obviously, with the likes of Luis Suarez and Fernando Torres, for example, to have done that. There are others. There's only a couple of others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head that did it 6 successive games. But Suarez and Torres are the 2 that stand out, and Mane is now up there in that same company. He's obviously on 17 goals for the season. I think it's his. Well, it is. Yes, it's his best goal scoring season, which is fantastic for us. It's fantastic for him. I'm very, very, very pleased for him. He's a terrific, tenacious little player. Very obviously, it's funny because I always look at Mane and I think he's this little slight, short, little fella, but he always, seems to pop up with the goods and. He actually, I was going to say he's short, and obviously he scored that great header against, I think it was against Watford. He scored a terrific header, and he jumped
straight into the top left-hand corner.
That's it. Yeah. I was going to say the leap for such a little man. It was like he had springs in his shoes, in his.
A wee little man.
He is. He's a wee little man, and no, you've got to love Sadio. You've got to love his celebrations as well, and his smile, his grin. He's a terrific player, and a player that obviously I'm very, very pleased to have in our side. But yeah, I would have given him an 8. I felt he played very, very well. But I just feel, for me, the reason why Lallana was my standout man of the match was because I felt like he really knitted our midfield together, and he gave us that creativity almost that we've missed. And it was almost like that extra almost element or ingredient that we were missing, that really, I think, just pushed us on a little bit this afternoon. And I think for me, it was the difference essentially that he made, and the fact that obviously he's had 4 Premier League starts this season for us. That to come in and to give a performance like that in the face of adversity, and with a hell of a lot of Liverpool fans bemoaning, criticising, stating that he shouldn't be in the team, that basically obviously the league has been cost before a ball has been kicked because of Lallana's inclusion, and proving these people wrong, these doubters wrong. For me, that's why he was man of the match for me. But no, I totally accept that Mane obviously gave a very, very, very good performance as well. I totally accept that.
Yeah, so I think that completes the player ratings, certainly. I just like to later wrap up that it was a good performance, even though it wasn't the best performance. But as we've discussed, it doesn't need to be the best performance. It just needs to be a good enough performance to get us over the line.
I would describe it as a professional performance. It was a professional performance, and obviously going 1-0 down early to a tricky Burnley side. I mean, let's be fair. I know that I'm saying obviously as well, and I've said earlier in the podcast that it is only Burnley. In one aspect, it is only Burnley. However, last season, it is worth noting that at Anfield we drew 1-1 with them. So they can be a tricky opponent, as they've proven. They probably should have beaten United at Old Trafford. They were unlucky. So they have done it, and they are quite a capable and tricky opponent. And obviously, when they went 1-0 up, I think our response was fantastic. We didn't panic. We weren't nervous. We settled quickly back into a rhythm. And obviously, that was the 3rd time this season at Anfield in the league that we've conceded the first goal and have gone on to win the game. Obviously, we've not drawn or lost any either, in which we've conceded the first goal. Literally, we've only been behind 3 times this season at Anfield, and we've won each game. So that's fantastic. So I think the resilience shown was brilliant. Like I say, I think it was just a professional performance. Not the best in the world, not the worst, more fluent than we have been. And obviously we've scored 4 goals, and we scored 5. Obviously in our last 2 home games, we scored 5 against Watford, 4 here against Burnley. So I think 9 goals scored in 2 games at Anfield, the last 2 league games, I think is nothing to be sniffed at. If that's a bad performance, winning 4-2, then, a great performance. God, I dread to think. But yeah, I mean, what about, okay, so moving forward then. So moving forward, obviously our next game is Champions League. So we're back in Champions League action on Wednesday against Bayern, of course, in Germany, before the weekend trip to Fulham. Have you got any thoughts regarding those and moving forward to wrap up?
The Bayern Munich and Fulham, I think it can be a hard tussle, especially with us going to the Allianz Arena. I think that's going to be one hard game to go to. With Fulham, it's one of them where they're fighting towards the relegation battle. Do you know what I hate? The fact that Scott Parker's now their manager, because I think he could do absolute bits there. And the way that he's set up, they've lost since he's been there, but I think he's been quite creative to Fulham's process whilst they've been there. But the main thing is if we take one game at a time and we think about one game at a time, the next is Bayern Munich, and that will get us into the quarterfinals, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's step by step, and if we go the right way, we can get the Premier League sorted, and then hopefully we can get the Champions League. But that is very, very. I think we should focus more towards Premier League than, for example, what we said at the start. I'm very surprised if it was a tactical Jordan Henderson to be saved for the Champions League, because if Lallana did surprise Klopp in training, then he should be playing throughout. That midfield today, I think, was probably, it wasn't the best performance, as we've given our player ratings for Wijnaldum and Fabinho, but even so, I think that they could all work on it in training, and I think that he should go with the same lineup with Matip, with Van Dijk, with Alexander-Arnold. I know he didn't play well, but I think they should go with that lineup again, unless Milner is possibly fit. Then go with that same lineup to Bayern, and we can cause them problems.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think what pattern of the game might end up being at the Allianz Arena is that I would expect Bayern to be a lot more offensive than they were at Anfield.
Completely.
By nature, of course, like in response, I would expect ourselves to be counter-attacking. Now, I feel like counter-attacking obviously will suit us anyway. We've obviously got pace, real pace, to cause Bayern a lot of problems. We're very, very good generally on the counter-attack. Obviously, that's been proven so many times, obviously, with us, with Liverpool. And I feel like we'll get chances for away goals. That's for certain. I do feel like we're going to get more chances than we got at Anfield. So I feel like chances are there for obviously for away goals. I feel that we should obviously look to be within both competitions. Obviously, I do agree with you. I agree that the main focus is the Premier League, but I also feel like we want to progress as far as we possibly can in the Champions League. So I would be disappointed to exit at this stage. I'm not going to lie, I would be disappointed. But don't get me wrong, and I mean this genuinely, in hindsight, if we were to go out to Bayern on Wednesday and then to go on to win the Premier League title, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't care a jot. I'd be absolutely over the moon. I wouldn't care.
Okay.
However,
let's phrase this in the latter way then. If we lost the title and we went out to Bayern.
Yes, I was just going to say. However, I was just going to literally get onto this. However, if we lose to Bayern and then go on to lose out on the title, then I'll be. It will all depend on the circumstances. If we go out to Bayern on Wednesday because we've been beaten by the better team and because they've outplayed us and they've basically deservedly gone through, then I can't have any complaints as such, but disappointment about the league. If we go out to Bayern in unlucky circumstances or through having just a nightmare away performance, performing how, not how we can perform, we let ourselves down against Bayern, for example, and then we go on to fail to win the title, then I'll be really angry and upset by it, because I will feel like, well, we could have gone further then in the Champions League, and then obviously we've lost out obviously on the league as well. I do feel like really, really important right now that we give our best in both.
Do you honestly feel like we can do both?
Well, there's no cups. I mean, the thing is, there's obviously we didn't go the distance in the EFL Cup. We didn't go the distance in obviously
the
in the FA. Sorry, the FA.
Which, we have. I think we discussed. Well, I think I touched on it a little bit just at the start, just saying whether it was a tactical decision to drop out because so we could go further, delve into the league and the Champions League, which we have done. I think round of 16 isn't quite far enough to gain, that stature where we deserve to be. But I'm
I would agree.
glad we made it out the groups. I'm glad we made it to here. Bayern was always going to be a tough tussle, no matter what players were available and what players weren't. Of course, Muller will still miss out on Wednesday, but they still have Lewandowski, Neuer, Alaba, Ribery,
Yeah,
Robin.
they're littered with stars. They are littered, obviously, with star players. Albeit an aging team, they've obviously got a lot of very, very well known and very, very high profile players that have had excellent careers. And Bayern are always obviously a difficult team. They are a European, powerhouse, still very much like we are. But we also shouldn't be daunted, obviously by that. But they've won it 5 times, so have we. We're very much on a level playing field with Bayern, I feel. And we've got a younger and a quicker team than obviously an aging Bayern side. It is a very, very tough task, but I don't feel like it's by any means an impossible one. And also I think if you take note as well of the sort of the teams that are left, then I feel truly that we have as much chance as anyone to lift it this season. Obviously, with the exception possibly of Man City, of course, as sort of the front runners. But
Madrid are out, so that's a big.
Madrid are out. I mean, I'd love to beat Bayern and play United in the quarterfinals. That would be fantastic.
Ooh.
I'd love it. Oh yes, beat Bayern and bring on United. That'd be the dream draw for me.
No.
It would for me.
I don't know.
Spurs.
United. No, I'm sorry, but I'd highly disagree. Highly disagree. I'd want anyone but an English team. I'd have.
Would you?
Happily take Ajax.
Take who?
Ajax.
Ajax. That's also not a bad shout. The only reason why I say obviously I'd take United is because it would be brilliant to put them out. And at some stage you have to play. At some stage you would end up playing, sort of the better side, obviously in the competition anyway. I know it would be a more difficult route, but I would be genuinely quite happy to play United with the first leg at Anfield, or to play Spurs with the first leg at Anfield. I would feel confident in doing so. But yeah, I mean, obviously,
the first leg at Old Trafford.
Would you?
Well, what if the first leg was at Old Trafford?
Oh, yeah, I don't know why I've said that. Sorry, I don't know why I've said that. Yeah, you always want to bring that second leg, back to Anfield. Yeah, I don't know why I've just thought that's a false train of thought.
You'd always, generally I think you'd always want to get the away leg first, and then you scored the, the away goals, and then you kind of can see how the home game goes. That's generally how I would like the Champions League to go.
Likewise, I would agree with that. Yeah, that was a false train of thought. But generally, I mean, I think the most important thing is just to perform against Bayern.
I think
perform. We go out.
Things. Yeah, but I think Bayern is the next game we need to think about. But as I think Klopp would say if he was, in the situation of just, generally talking about it like we are, he'd just say one game at a time.
Absolutely, and that's the way it should.
Yeah, it shouldn't be we're just thinking about Fulham, when there's another game beforehand. And what? I'm so glad that Salah didn't get picked for Egypt internationals. Whether that is because of his form dropping, I don't know, but it's nice to know that he's not been picked, so he won't get injured. So he
Won't get
won't
injured.
well, he might get injured during training. You never know, but it's just nice to hear that he'll be at home, or he'll be training, or he might go away, have a
Yeah,
rest, and then come back as fresh as a daisy, hopefully, and hopefully that rejoices him for the rest of the season.
yeah, I agree.
Because
I agree.
I
So
think
basically,
we touched on it the last time. The training camps don't seem to have done much for the actual fit players, but they seem to have done a lot for the non-fit players. Like
yeah, I agree.
Lallana, Oxlade, Brewster, they all brought them through, and Lallana has made it into the first team now, brilliant.
Yeah,
But the other players just seem to be shattered and just seem to be, you know, like the jet lag might have forced against them. Don't know why we had so many training camps, just taking them away. Why don't we just stay at home and just get them all like here and work on it?
I think
But
only the can answer that because obviously the training camps obviously clearly haven't really worked. I think they've in many cases essentially they've backfired. And I think it's something that possibly wants addressing for next season.
yeah,
There is there is very little point to these training camps from what we have witnessed. Whilst I understand, sort of Klopp has been quite vocal about privacy, which I understand that they get when they obviously go to these training camps abroad. Obviously, they're not as sort of spied on, etc. There's a lot more privacy in general for the
Leeds
team.
United aren't in the Premier League yet. We don't have to worry about that
Well,
yet.
exactly. We don't really have to worry about Spygate yet. But yeah, I don't know. Not obviously not the greatest idea in the world. These training camps, from the looks of it, and hopefully it's something that next season we might look to avoid. But unfortunately, it does seem to be something that Klopp quite likes, so he may well continue with them.
Yeah, it's just one of those things getting the players away because they might get fed up with all the weather and stuff, and it does get a bit depressing being in Britain all the time. So I do get it on that point, but it's one of them where you just gotta monitor. You can I think he had two in about 3 months, which
He
didn't
did.
make a lot of sense. But anyway, I think it was wrong to have too many, but I think one, yeah, fine, but two, it's a little bit questionable.
I agree. I do agree with that
Yeah,
entirely. Just very quickly as well, I just wanted to quickly touch on obviously basically what the question that you put to me, which was obviously about Champions League, Premier League priorities, and obviously the whole would you take essentially going out of the Champions League and winning the title, which obviously I
yeah,
answered,
and
and then obviously going out
just
with
just to
what's your
say, if there is any viewers that that, that do question me on that question, by all means, question us. You know that, that that's what we like, but I'm not saying like the best thing is to go out to Bayern. What I'm saying is a hypothetical question: is would you take going out to Bayern if we won the league? That's fairly hypothetical. Don't get me wrong, I would love to win the Champions League. I would love to win the Premier League in the same season, but I
yeah
do not believe that we can go from nothing, like going to finals, and then unfortunately not winning them, to two trophies in one season. I
no
just don't think we have the tenacity or in fact, the squad to do that as of yet. By all
yeah
means, if they do it, a 10 out of 10 for everyone that played a part. I
absolutely.
think everyone deserves a bloody training camp at the end of the season if they get the Champions League and a Premier League title.
Well, if,
But
if they manage to get both, I think it'd go down. To be honest, it's probably one of the best seasons ever, because especially with this squad, because we have a very good squad, but I don't think we've got a very deep squad.
no,
And so, in terms of that depth, to do it with the players that we have, and obviously we have had injuries as well. I mean, obviously we have had some bad injury crisis, particularly obviously in defence. We are lucky, touch wood, that that players are gradually coming back, and they couldn't really be coming back at better time. To be honest, it is the best time for us to be getting back to full strength and full quota. So touch wood that it stays like that for the rest of the season, and that'll be fantastic and can only help us. But to actually,
you can't see me right now, but I'm currently touching my wooden drawer because you keep telling me to touch wood. So,
you know what I mean? That if we can maintain a full strength quota, then as long as we, I think as long as we give a performance to be proud of in the Champions League, if it's not enough, it's not enough. That's fine. The Premier League, we've come so close. So, and we are so close. And I believe that we can do it. I believe that we will do it. And I do think it is the priority. You know what I mean? The Champions League, I would love, like yourself, I would love to win it. The Premier League for me is the absolute priority. It's the one I want. It's the one that I imagine every Liverpool fan really wants. 29 years is a long, long, long time. It's way too long. For a club that has been, there's been champions of England 18 times. To go 29 years is just it's too long, and it would be absolutely amazing. It'd be the first time I've seen it. Obviously, it'd be the first time you've seen it. And God, it will be an absolute party. So I just really, really hope that they win the Premier League.
And the fact that I live in Liverpool, well, I live like opposite Liverpool, it would just mean a hell of a lot for the city, and especially the money it will raise, especially for in the area, just generally getting it back to being the champions of England once again. And I think I think it can become the hub of football once again if we win the league. Because imagine how many players will be attracted. Then, do you know what? I love Jadon Sancho. I love him to come in the summer. I know he's a right winger, left winger, but the part of that is depth. I would love him to come. I know he's 18, 19. Bloody brilliant. Get him signed up. Do not care how much he costs. If we win the Premier League, that's a lot of it on him.
Absolutely.
But, I think Klopp has talked about him as well, and
Timo
Werner. And I think Nabil Fekir's contract ends soon. He's talked about signing a 1-year deal. Thiago Alderweireld has a £25 million release clause, which I'm very surprised about, and he's still youngish, 29, 30. I wouldn't mind seeing him come in for a year or two.
So almost when you think about it, no matter what happens, I think, to be honest, come the end of the season, whether it be obviously in the Premier League or obviously or the Champions League, we're going to be in for a very exciting summer.
Yeah.
Very. It's going to be a very interesting summer.
Yeah, I think we might just be getting ahead of ourselves, but I think take one game at a time, and it'll honestly come. And all I can say is, I think I can't stress this enough. If anyone does lose that game against Tottenham, will lose the title. And for God's sake, I don't hope. I hope Liverpool win against Tottenham, because otherwise, then I'm just basically backing myself into a corner.
Well, you've called it, and I was going to say, and again, any listeners, please give your views on that, on what Adam's saying, with regards to the Spurs game and how important it is. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Obviously, both ourselves and City are playing Spurs, and as you've said, that City have got United to play as well at Old Trafford. But the Spurs game obviously does look to be the pivotal one, and I would agree with you on that. So basically, give us your thoughts.
Glad you're agreeing with me. It just doesn't mean that I'm I'm the only one saying it, so thank God. But
I totally agree. Spurs always poses a lot of problems as well. I think particularly at Anfield. I know last season they caused us a lot of problems. That ended 2-2. Good old diving in that game was astronomical. It was something else, really. Unfortunately, which I don't like to obviously always to talk about. But no, Spurs will pose a threat. I mean, irrespective of where they are. I mean, obviously now they're 12 points behind us. Obviously, there's 24 left to play for. It does look very much like it's just ourselves and City. Spurs, though, will still be fighting very hard to hang on to the top four. You know, Spurs have gone from a position of challenging ourselves and City to battling for the top four. So a lot rests and rides on Spurs as well in their matches, obviously, and obviously against us and City. So they will be desperate for the points, like we are. So it should certainly make for open games, obviously, like between ourselves and Spurs and City and Spurs. But the hope is that we get the better result, obviously against Spurs than City. But yeah, no, I would agree with you. But basically, what we want to know is basically for everybody just to give their views, don't we? Sort of, you know, the pivotal matches for the rest of the season, and also Champions League views. Would you prioritise the Premier League over the Champions League? Do you feel essentially that we should fight for both? Is it possible with the squad that we've got and the depth that we've got to realistically fight for both at 100%?
You could argue that Oxlade and Joe are coming back, so that gives two more players, and possibly Bruce are coming back, but I wouldn't play him in a Champions League in far of this level.
No, I wouldn't.
You could argue that we do have Shaqiri and Origi, but
Keita.
again, it would Naby Keita. Yeah, he certainly dropped off the list of playing. I don't know why. A lot of people are questioning that. And
A lot of people on Twitter have been going mad about Shaqiri and Keita, and obviously I touched earlier, didn't I? I said people were saying Keita will be off in the summer because basically, obviously, he wasn't getting into the team. But obviously, I mean, Shaqiri, don't get me wrong, Shaqiri's not done a lot wrong, but Keita has not been good enough on the whole. You know, I mean, for the most part, he's had more off days than good days. Shaqiri, I think, has done little wrong, so could maybe consider himself a little bit unlucky. Keita has a lot of work to do, but obviously, a lot of fans, a lot of people on Twitter are quite vocal about the fact that Keita should be in the team, and you know, obviously saying that they were, you know, that obviously they weren't happy that Lallana was in the team. You know, where's Keita? Where's Shaqiri? You know, all this, but I think we've just got to take each game as it comes, like you said. Jurgen Klopp picks the team, he puts the team out, he expects the starting 11 to give him the best possible chance of winning the game. And so
we've comes from in training, which also pulls on to another point which she raised.
Yeah. Training, absolutely. And of course, obviously, there were fans on Twitter saying that the team trains too much. Well, okay, that's fine. But you can never.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
how we're supposed to, you know, go on with football if we don't train.
Yeah. What do you think they should? I mean, to anybody that thinks maybe our players train too much, I mean, what do you think they should be doing? Out partying, drinking, doing what they like? You know, not training. You know, are they not paid to train in the kindest possible way? Training builds fitness. Fitness is obviously essential for the long run in a season, particularly towards the latter stages of the season. I don't really think you can train too much, so to speak. So yeah, I thought that
cause injury.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, yeah. Of course, there is always the risk of injury, but I don't know. You can get injured doing anything, can't you? You can get injured walking to your car. You know,
That's what I'm saying. Like, no training for a number amount of days might cause an injury. You know, you might
Yeah.
stretch something if you just chill out too much. Like
And
I don't play football like too regularly, but I played it like a month ago and I pulled my hamstring. You know that brought me out for 4 weeks, and I don't play it a lot, so you know
yeah,
it was the hard one for me. The only time I've ever really done something that bad, and you know it it's just because I don't play a lot, but you know
yeah.
so I don't train.
Well, I didn't
And
train. That's the thing. I used to play football all the time and stuff, obviously, and then like with my school teams and things, I didn't train as such. But yeah, but very quickly, I just wanted to make one final point myself, like on the whole training idea. Was one of the comments that basically you can't pick a player based on how good they are in training. Well, I do want to address that actually, and I want to say, how are you supposed to pick a player then? What are you supposed to pick a player based on? Are you supposed to pick a player based on their reputation alone? Are you supposed to pick a player based on whether you like them or not? Are you supposed to pick a player because you think that they are more creative than another player, or do you pick them based on what you see? And when you pick a player that is based on training, for example, like Jurgen Klopp did obviously with Adam Lallana this afternoon, he did that based on what he saw, obviously saw close up and personal. He's seen Adam Lallana in training, and he made a good judgment call based on his performances and attitude in training. And I think that in training, what you do see is you see that players, like I've just said, their attitude, you see their desire, their commitment, you see obviously their skills, the skill set, skill level, and where they're at right now, form wise. And obviously, I think that arguably the most important way to tell whether a player is ready to go into the team is in training, because
yeah,
you are, like I say, you are seeing everything that player is doing in front of you, and compared to a match, for example, where obviously you stood, obviously in Jurgen Klopp's position, he stood on the sidelines watching the game, like maybe anybody else is. When you're in training and you're obviously stop, start, you are able to closely monitor each individual and to watch what each individual is doing, more of the time than you are during a game. During a game, you're watching the collective. Perhaps during training, you're watching more individuals, and seeing how they are. So absolutely, you can pick a player based on training.
yeah, completely
Yeah.
agree.
Great stuff. I think that about wraps us up, doesn't it? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just if anyone's got any comments to do with the fixtures coming up, if anyone's got anything to say, if anyone wants to talk about what's to happen um, for the future, and if anyone wants to join the Liverpool group that both me and Terence are in, Liverpool FC fans, and by all means, more than welcome to make some comments on there, and by all means, we'll there'll be a link on there for the KopThis as well. But anything is more than welcome, and we'll try and answer the questions, and we may have a question and answer, depending on if there's a lot in the next podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say the same, really. I'm absolutely well up for like a Q&A session at some point if anybody would like to sort of to get involved. I just want to say to anybody that has managed to listen to this right to the end, absolutely well done. You probably deserve a medal. So congratulations, because I'm quite aware that sometimes these do get, I think, excessively long. And I think it's just about trying to sort of refine and to sort of narrow down, but it's easy just to talk and talk and talk. So well done. But yeah, definitely Q&A sessions I'd be open to the idea of. I'd be open maybe even to the idea of maybe doing like a live kind of podcast at some point, if there's a way to go around that and sort of get people involved that way. And just take it from here, really. Any comments, please leave, like you mentioned, obviously in the Liverpool FC fans group. or anywhere on the video, anywhere in general. And I'm sure that one of us will get back to you and be quite proactive in sort of responding to you. So yeah, thank you for listening. Until the next time.
We are KopThis.
Goodbye.
Bye.